This is Mitch for Indigenous Insights. Today we're zooming in with Raven Reid, a self-taught singer-songwriter from Mikisew Cree First Nations, Canada. Her music depicts the life of an Indigenous woman, and she is in a contest called Opening Act. It's said to give artists of all genres and ages the chance of a lifetime, and she is currently in first place. Raven, welcome to the show.
Hi, nice to be here.
Okay, so first of all, before we kind of get into your music and stuff, tell us a little bit about who you are. Tell us about yourself.
Well, my name is Raven, and I was born in Yellowknife, Northwest Territories in Saskatchewan. So I was way up north. And then my family was torn apart by the 60 Scoop, which is an Adopt an Indian Métis program they had started in the 1960s. And what it was taking away Indigenous children. Instead of putting them in residential schools, they adopted them into non-Indigenous families.
Oh,
So that's what
wow.
happened to my family. Yeah.
That's a history lesson right there. I'm gonna have to look into that a little bit more.
Hmm.
And now tell us a little bit about your music and your journey with that.
Well, it starts from there. My biological family, they're all very musical. They're the Desjardins from Mikisew Cree First Nations. And they used to have huge kitchen parties with the fiddling and the jigging and all. Everybody played an instrument. And then when I was adopted at 4 years old, the family that I grew up in was not musical at all. They were non-Indigenous. They shot more for higher education, be a doctor, be a lawyer, sort of things like that. And I decided to be a musician. So I'm self-taught. I learned how to play the guitar, harmonica, a little bit of bass, drums, pretty much any instrument that I pick up, I could probably learn.
Very cool. And when did you start performing?
In public, I started performing about 7 years ago. It started in church, and then I moved away from that. And my very first gig was at the TCU place in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, in front of 800 people. I really didn't think it was going to be that many, and I almost ditched out, but I braved through it and had my first gig.
And what was that like? How was it? Bring us through your
Uh,
experience.
Well, I walked up the stairs thinking that there might be 40, 50 people there. It ended up being tons of camera crews from across Canada, sort of a national thing. It was for ITEP, so the Indian Teaching Education Program at the university. And there happened to be over 800 people there. So I walked up the stairs, and then I was going to walk right back down because that was too many for me for my first gig. But my aunt had driven one of my biological aunts had driven from Medicine Hat all the way to Saskatoon to watch me perform my very first performance in public. So she grabbed me by the shirt and said, "I didn't drive 4 hours to watch you walk up and down the stairs. So you're going up on that stage." And so I did. I actually had something written out, and it was at a time where I didn't memorize any of my songs yet, even. So I had them written down. And I think the first time that I had made the crowd laugh was when it clicked for me that I knew I was supposed to be in front of crowds singing and making people laugh, having them enjoy themselves. And music is a way of reaching people to teach them also. So that's what my first experience was like.
So what are some of the highlights of your travels since then? Where have you performed?
Oh, I've performed all over Saskatchewan and into Alberta. I do a lot of touring of the festivals. I don't really audition. They just sort of ask me to come out. I'm also a public speaker, so I've flown in planes to like up to northern communities. That was very scary. One of my favorites was going up to Fond du Lac Reserve and flying up there. The plane got smaller and smaller and smaller till we got to the community, and there was maybe four other people in that plane. So it was really scary, but at the same time, it was a lot of fun. Reaching youth and talking about suicide prevention was the event at that time.
Very good. Now tell us a little bit about the contest, the opening act.
The opening act, a friend of mine had applied for it last year. They're called Black Rain, and they're from Saskatchewan here in Canada. And it just popped up on my news feed on Facebook, and I had made it a plan to start putting myself out there more. I also have some managers now, so they encourage me to apply for a lot of different things. I'm not really one for competition. I'm not very good at competition in the music industry. I think that we all have our own set of skills, unique skills that we bring to the table. So something like this was sort of a surprise to me. And I thought it was a great idea because the first one is in New York, and it's for a benefit called We Can Survive. And it's about suicide prevention. And that I hold dear to my heart because I've lost many friends through suicide.
Again, it says on here that it says this year's winner will open for a star-studded lineup at the iconic Prudential Center Arena and take home $10,000. That's a good chunk of change right there. What would that money mean for you?
Well, I took audio engineering last year and decided that I would like to record my own music instead of signing to a label. I would also like to work with Camp with Eliza Doyle. She has a nonprofit organization that needs a recording artist, an audio engineer to help produce music. So that's what that money would go towards, is to buy a music studio.
Very cool. Where can people find your music?
They can find it on Spotify, YouTube, all over the place. If you Google Raven Reid, I pop up right away. So
Awesome. And then any last words for the listeners out there?
I just want to thank every single person who's been voting for me, who has been promoting me, and all my friends, family, and managers.
All right. Very good. Thanks for being here today, and good luck.
Thank you so much for having me.